guys, so today I'm gonna do a video that's been very requested. I'm gonna share with you my experience with as many details as possible so that hopefully it is useful for you guys. I am 24 and I've seen 2 therapists in my life. The first one when I was a kid, I'd say I was about 7 or 8. I don't remember exactly why I was seeing a therapist at that time, but I guess it was just because I had issues with my parents and my family. At that time, seeing a therapist was completely useless, and it lasted for maybe a few months, not that long. And then the second time I went to see a therapist was very recently, I think when I was 21 until actually last December. So I was in therapy for 3 years, which is quite a long time. I'd have been even 20, but I'm not sure. So I went to see a therapist for the second time because of anxiety and depression, and it wasn't an easy choice to make. When I was younger, I always had, I think, mental health issues, but they were not bad to the point that they would prevent me from doing anything in real life. So I never really thought about it that much, and I think it's quite rare when you're a child or a young teenager to wish to see a therapist by yourself, because you don't really realize if there's anything wrong with you. But I always had anxiety disorder, I always had depression, I always had moments that were really, well, the moments of depression basically. I just went through moments of real bad depression, moments when I felt really happy. And the funny thing, is I always knew there was something off with me. I always knew there was something wrong with me. And I always felt like I was going to turn crazy or insane. Like, that was my biggest fear when I was younger. It was not getting old, it was not dying, it was getting insane. It was quite difficult because I was always in between, I wasn't someone that tried to commit suicide, yet I had suicidal thoughts, but not even in the sense like I want to die. It was more like, life, that I've been much easier to be dead. Not even in despair, just like a very normal, simple, logical constellation that I would make. Or I was really anxious and really had already social anxiety, but at the same time I didn't really go out, and I had this very good group of friends that I had known for years, so I felt comfortable around them, so my anxiety was not really an issue. Basically, I was always in this gray area. That's the story of my life. I'm always in this fucking gray area. So I was in this gray area when I didn't know if I really had something, if I didn't have something. And sometimes I think it'd be fucking much easier to really have something that has a name. But when things turned out that way, when I arrived in Paris and my social anxiety, my general anxiety went crazy and led me to depression, I felt completely different. I was like, fuck, I want to go back to this gray area. I don't like having something that looks so serious, that feels so serious and heavy and fucking annoying, and that's preventing me from living a normal life. And it took me 2 years to finally acknowledge that this could not go on anymore. And I remember clearly I was on the phone with my mom and I was crying, and I was like, Mom, do you think, because she was like, why aren't you going to school? By the way, if you are curious, there's a video about my social anxiety and how it manifested itself and whatnot. I'm not going to go into details in this video, but I couldn't go to school, and my mom was like, why aren't you going to school? You should go to school. And I was like, Mom, do you think it makes me happy that I cannot go to school? Do you think I think it's fun that I cannot go out? Do you think I'm happy living that way? And I started crying like crazy, and I remember I felt so ashamed that I was admitting that to my mom. I felt super bad, and she was like, okay, you need to see someone. So she called a therapist, and she actually called the therapist of my university. And that's the one thing I would recommend, first of all, to anyone who doesn't have money, who is too young, doesn't have anyone that to rely on or whatever. Turn to your university. They should have someone you should speak to, that you are able to talk to, and that person, even if they're not like a real therapist, a real psychologist, or a real psychiatrist, I would recommend seeing a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, by the way. They can tell you who you could call, who you could see, whatever. I was not convinced at all, because I remembered my first experience when I was a child. I think completely useless. I was like, I should just woman up, and be strong and whatnot. And I also felt really scared that the psychologist would be like, well, there's nothing wrong with you, you're just being whiny, so why are you even here? I felt like people would not listen to me. Actually, I had been thinking of seeing a therapist when I was around 16, 17, 18, 19, because of sex, because, you know, I still feel like I want to talk about that with someone, but that's another story. Anyway, so I was thinking maybe I should see a therapist. And so when I was waiting for the therapist, I was like, fuck, I already had one reason to see a therapist. Really fucked up. And the thing is, I don't think that harshly about others. When it came to me, I was like, fuck, you're weak, fuck, you should have done this and not done that, and blah 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 and blah blah blah. And I was like, I'm 21 or 20, and I'm sitting in a room waiting for a therapist. Is that normal? Yeah, with the therapist, it went really well. For the first year or so, I saw her every week, and I could have seen her twice a week. I had so many things to say, so many struggles, so much pressure, so much anxiety, so many doubts and questions. And I cried so often when I was seeing her. There were so many sessions when I would just start talking and suddenly cry. And I remember the first time I saw her, she asked me, why are you here? And I told her, well, you know, I cannot really go to school anymore. I have issues at school. But the thing is, I never really talked about school. You know, I talked about my parents, I talked about my family, I talked about my personal life, I talked about my past, my friends, Paris, everything. Things that I never really thought were related to the issue. Things that I thought I had no issue dealing with, but suddenly I realized, oh my god, I haven't dealt with that properly in the past, and that's something that's preventing me from living a normal life. That's something that's holding me back. And with her help, with her questions, with her benevolent listening, I could talk and figure out a few things, and she would always be like, that's really good, a step at a time, one by one, slowly. First, I could not see any result, I could not see any difference, but then I started feeling a bit more joyful, a bit lighter. I could, you know, go to see her and not worry about, is it the good time, is it the good day, did I really confirm the appointment? Because obviously my anxiety made me think that maybe she had forgotten about me, maybe I was on the wrong day, on the wrong hour, maybe I would be rude, whatever, you know. I started being able to call her or text her, all that sort of things, and I started going to university again, and I started taking the metro and the bus again, and going out on my own, which was impossible. Yeah, I could see the difference day by day. I could see how it became easier and easier, but you know, it took 3 years. 3 years, that's a long time, and I'm still not completely, you know, recovered or whatever. I don't think I'm ever gonna be fully recovered anyway. But now she has given me the tools to deal with my anxiety, to deal with my depression, to understand myself a lot more, to cope with things, you know. There were times, you know, when I felt like I had said too much or not enough. Sometimes I felt like I had lied, even though I didn't lie. It felt like it wasn't real, or it felt like she didn't understand me properly. You know, it wasn't always perfect, but we really had a good connection, and I think this is what you're looking for. And don't be afraid to change a therapist if you don't feel that connection, because this is really important. Another thing I want to mention is that I saw the doctor as well, because I had to, and the doctor told me, you need to see a psychiatrist, you need to be under medication. I would not recommend it. I'm not a professional by any means, but I have read a lot about, you know, psychology, and I've been around, I don't want to get into details about that, but I've been around mentally ill people for a long time. I've been around psychiatrists and therapists for a long time. I've been around medication for a long time, and in some cases, yes, medication is important and necessary, but in many cases it is not. I would really suggest, you know, things are hard sometimes, life is not always easy and it takes time, but you can do it without medication. So it's up to you. Obviously, you're the one who's in charge of yourself. You know yourself better, you know your condition and your whatever, but don't always trust someone just because they're a doctor. Don't always trust someone because they're a psychiatrist and they can give you medication. I honestly think sometimes they give you medication for no reason, just because it's easier and because they make money out of giving you medication. I would completely recommend seeing a therapist. Honestly, it was the best thing, like it was one of the best decisions I took in my life, and it was not easy to make. Honestly, that wasn't an easy choice to make. If not for my mom, maybe I would have never made it, and if I don't know where I would be. I hope this was helpful. I'm with you, you know, I'm with you. If you're scared, think that I'm with you, that I'm calling with you, and I'm sitting with you. I want you to get better. We all want you to get better, so make sure you take care of yourself. Thank you for watching this video, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!